Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today for our benefits and eligibility verification webinar. My name is Paul Hartshey. I'm the CEO of RevCycle Partners, and with me today I have Christine Schneider, who's our co-founder and VP and head of all our operations teams at RevCycle. Before we get started, let's go through some logistics. As with most webinars, everyone is muted to keep the noise to a minimum. We will do a Q&A session at the end, and so you should be able to find on your GoToWebinar panel a place to enter questions. So feel free to enter those along the way, and we'll do our best to answer them at a Q&A session at the end. We are recording the webinar, and so if there's any good information here you want to share with others in the practice, you'll get an email with a link to it, and you can forward that to any of your colleagues. Last bit of business, I guess, to start with is I want to apologize up front. I am coming off about a 2.5-week cold, and so my voice is a little dicey, and I've got my water and my tea and my cough drops, and hopefully we'll get through this without any big issues. But if I'm paused for a bit, it's probably because I'm coughing and clearing my throat. Christine also caught the cold, so she's not quite as far along as I am, but and her voice is a little worse. But if you bear with us, we will get through the presentation. So with that, let's get started. So today's topics is benefits and eligibility verification, and kind of strategies to employ or deploy to tackle that topic in your practice. And I thought I'd start the presentation with a couple of quotes I snagged from a recent a panel webinar we did on the topic. There's a couple of docs that were on. You can read the quotes for yourselves, but ultimately the insurance topic is related to money, whether it's getting paid, the practice paid by insurers or dealing with the proper amounts for the patient, which money can be a touchy topic. We're going to present some ideas today for you to think about, discuss maybe with your practice, your team around benefits and eligibility verification. Hopefully you can snag a nugget, an idea or two to consider and put into use at your practice. Let's talk a little bit about the scope of benefits and eligibility verification, kind of what we think is in the topic. Kind of set some boundaries for the conversation. Fundamentally, as I'm sure you all know, it's the topic centers around gathering up front, preferably prior to when patients come into the office, a patient's insurance benefits and eligibility. We look at this both from vision and medical payers. We think both sides of the payer world is important to get your hands around the topic. I want to talk a little bit about all the areas that we include or think are part of this. Kind of right out of the gate, more kind of the basic one is ensuring that a patient's plan is active. Do you need to get updated information from a patient that has been in the past but has a new insurance plan, new policy? Things as simple as, is the subscriber ID correct that you have on file? Is finding mistakes like Medicare MBIs that are might be typed as a capital O rather than a 0, and things like that. Fundamentally, Hello. I think I'm back. Christine, can you hear me?
I can. I was kicked out for a minute, so I just got logged back in myself.
Yeah, myself. Can someone in the audience maybe chime in to see if you guys are still there? Or it had a. We're back. Looks like we're back. I apologize for that. I'm not quite sure what happened. My computer complained at me, but I think we're back up and running. So apologize for that. We'll keep on going here. So we were talking about copays, deductibles, secondaries, and capturing that information up front. So that you collect the proper payments from the patients, but also be able to provide them the proper insurance benefit information for their knowledge. Used and unused benefits. And understanding unused benefits on the vision side can be a very powerful information to use as a tool in the dispensary. Even if a patient is in for not their annual exam and not looking to change their script, the fact that you understand that they have unused benefits available is a tool you can use and start having conversations around that. The reality is many patients have multiple plans, medical vision, primary, secondary, vision riders. This is information that can be confusing to the patients. Many don't realize that they have vision benefits associated with their medical plans. And getting all this information up front is again a tool to be able to explain things to the patients and understand what's best in their interest and best for the practice. And finally, in the eye care space, in your area of specialty and practice, understanding special coverage, diabetic coverage, ancillary testing coverage, things like that is an important part of what we consider the scope of B&E verification. As we talk to practices, we're dealing with a lot of practices around the insurance topic, whether it be on the billing side or the verification side. We see a range of implementations of B&E strategies or B&E processes within practices, and I kind of see them falling into three categories. There are definitely some that view this as an important topic that they commit resources and they value the results of it. They have a plan in place. They have resources assigned to it. They track the results. They're getting information both from a vision and medical perspective, and they really view this or treat the topic and the processes around verification as a strategic, component of their practice. I'd say most of the practices we run into fall into the second category where they're, quote unquote, doing the best they can. They want to get the data that we're talking about. They kind of understand the value of capturing that information up front. But often it's implemented, as a, as a shared staff responsibility. Whoever can get to it, maybe a different person each day, depending on the load. And ultimately, the end result is their biller, the back end biller, is the safety net in this kind of process. Where if they don't get the proper information, it's up to the biller in the back end to find it and fix it. And then finally, there are a number of practices that really just have not committed to the topic. They wait for patients. They kind of view the topic as an afterthought, and they wait for patients to come in before they capture this information. Don't necessarily verify it. There's no defined process. It's not a priority, and ultimately, again, the billers, the person responsible for cleaning this up, if you will. What I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is I'm going to put a poll up, and I'm kind of curious where. There we go. Where you see your practice fitting kind of in this range. So if you take a couple of seconds here and just kind of pick one of those categories, we appreciate just kind of getting your feedback of how the audience is treating this topic in their practice. I'll give you a few seconds to get the votes in. All right, great. I appreciate the feedback. It's always good to get this kind of data. Christine, can you still see my screen? I think you can. All right.
Yes.
All right, great, thanks. So let's switch to what are some of the returns you can expect in your practice if you implement a strategy around benefits and eligibility, and you invest a little bit in this area. First one on the list is less downstream billing mistakes. I think with any process, whether it's in handling insurance in an eye care practice or any other workflow, the rule of thumb is that it is a lot cheaper to fix problems the earlier you find them in a process. And so, in our situation, or in the practice situation, rather than we think that there's a significant cost savings both in time, staff time, and dollars if you are able to catch mistakes up front by verifying the benefits and eligibility and fixing them up front, rather than having them roll downstream into the billing and into your accounts receivable. We work and talk to a lot of we work with and talk to a lot of practices that are challenged by their AR, have growing AR, a large set of claims that they're trying to figure out and chase. And one way to reduce that issue is to submit clean claims up front, and a good way to do that, a way to start that process is verifying the benefits up front to get the claim to go through the first time. And so by solving these problems up front, fixing these problems up front, the additional claims don't get stacked up in AR, causing more time and effort for your billing team. We do think there are revenue opportunities by putting in a benefits and eligibility verification process. Capturing those unused benefits can be used to drive optical sales. Again, whether it's somebody's in for their annual exam or they're in for another reason, understanding the level of their unused benefits is a good tool to have. Many medical plans have vision riders or vision benefits that often pay better than your VSP or your iMeds. Many patients don't even know that they have those vision benefits on their medical plans. And by getting this information up front, you and your team can do what's best for the patient, and also what's best for the practice by utilizing the proper payers. Also from a revenue perspective, we find a lot of practice have uncollected copays. Whether they're written off because the time between when a claim is finally understood and fixed and paid, and then determined that there's a copay that goes with it. Many practices think it's if you're too far away from the actual date of service from when the patient was in the office, they don't want to go bother that patient 4 or 5 months later. And so if you get those copays collected properly up front, there's less write-offs. There's also less patient statements that have to be generated. In that webinar panel I alluded to, one of the docs that was talking about the results after implementing a B&E strategy was that the quantity of patient statements that they had to send out was cut in half after the work they had done. Coordination of benefits, again, identifying the proper plans to manage diabetic care under coordination of benefits to leverage all insurance plans, what's best for the patient, again, and what's best for the practice. All those are things that can come as a result of a solid B&E strategy. We think you're going to have a smoother front desk if you tackle this. Having all the detail prior to a patient arrival, you're going to provide security and comfort to your patient, being able to talk knowledgeably. If your staff exhibits a confidence in being able to talk confidently about the benefits that the patient has, it's going to start the encounter off on a better foot, and ultimately have fewer delays coming out of the front desk experience. We talked about the better patient experience that we think is driven by that. Benefits get explained at appointment rather than on a phone call reviewing a statement that they got from your office sometime down the road. Less patient follow-ups on copays and a knowledgeable staff. And ultimately, I think you're going to find a happier staff if the task of and the effort around verification is not a squeezed-in task. It's something that's given the appropriate time and attention and able to be done. The other benefit for the overall staff, you think you'll find if you implement a strategy around verification that if you can get to consistent data, the rest of the staff that utilizes that data is going to reap the benefits of that. The opticians, the docs, the billers, not necessarily the people that are not necessarily their team members that are actually getting the information from the insurance companies and verifying it, but everybody else that utilizes that data. If that can be represented in a consistent format, there's a lot of benefits there. Some real world examples that we run into either with our customers or talking to practices in the market. Excuse me just a second. Sorry. Probably again the one of the most obvious ones or frequent ones is just identifying that inactive coverage. There was a recent thread on one of the Facebook forums around the topic of the difficulty of gathering decent insurance information from patients, and one of the persons posting in that thread, talked about how they had just yesterday, the day before, processed or posted an EOB where 2/3 of the claims are denied because it was the wrong insurance, either wrong subscriber ID, wrong payer, didn't get out of the gate. Basically, that getting those things cleaned up at the beginning is going to solve immense downstream problems. Identifying the routine vision benefits and riders, kind of talked about that. One of our early beta customers for our verification service talked to us about how he feels he's able to pay for our outsourced service where we're doing it for him because of the consistency that we have of identifying a specific vision rider for a payer that's in his region, in his demographics with his employer base. But they pay at such a premium over kind of standard vision plans that in and of itself was a big enough benefit for him from an economic perspective. You're going to find the specific eye care related topics coverage. So there are some VSP plans provide diabetic coverage. We talk a lot about the copay collection. That again is a big benefit to get that right up front, all the way from a cash flow to reduced patient statements and reduced patient angst are in there. And then and finally, if you look at it from the biller, the biller perspective, and as I mentioned, we spend a lot of time chatting with people about AR problems, but that better first first claim submission, allows your billing team to focus on the AR side. AR recovery is not a trivial task. It can be a time-intensive task, talking to payers and getting the documentation that they need. And if you can eliminate the trivial claims from that, the ones that are really, should go through if you had the right information, you can spend more time on the kind of quote unquote real AR. So with that, it's kind of all background. What are some of the recommendations we might have for places you can invest in benefits and eligibility verification? How do you change what you're doing in the practice? And out of the gate, a key thing is understanding the resource requirements. Based on the patient volume that you have, you should be able to do some level of assessment on, given a goal of what level of verification you would like to see done on that patient load. Do you need to hire additional staff? Now, obviously that has economic ramifications, and so you're going to have to assess that, and based on some of the benefits that we talked about today, and the improvements to the practice from a cash flow perspective and other things. It's obviously going to be an economic decision on whether that's the way to go or not. An alternative is, rather than adding staff, is kind of adjusting or realigning your staff responsibility, rather than having it be kind of a shared responsibility. Maybe consider chartering one person in the office to champion the topic. Incent them, monitor the success or the improvements of that, and give them enough time, shed some of their other responsibilities so that they can focus on the topic, and you can have a sense of, evaluate whether that makes a difference or not. There is the opportunity to outsource. We provide a service to do this work for a practice if you wanted to just kind of jettison it and let your staff focus on other things. So that's always an option as well. And we'll talk a little bit in a minute. Christine will kind of go over our service to just give you a feel for what that looks like. Another thing we think you should do, or would suggest you consider, is shining a spotlight on the topic itself. I know many of you are, track KPIs and either incent staff based on certain KPIs, or at least monitor the KPIs to see how the team is doing. You can do that in this area as well. Make it a KPI, define a KPI or two around verification. And discuss it at your staff meetings. Put a spotlight on it. Provide the appropriate training. When you hire the kind of green front desk person, give them some training on the insurance topic. Many don't know how to read and interpret an insurance card, let alone know where to put that information in the PMS. So providing the appropriate training, and then also educating the entire staff on the importance of it. Why is this something you're focused on? What are the benefits that you're expecting to reap for your practice economically, but also for the staff from being able to have them do their job better. As you look at the topic, you should assess the technology that's available to you. Most of the clearinghouses that you're working with will have add-on features to be able to get benefits and eligibility information. You're probably going to have to pay additional fee for that, and it's not just the technology. You got to make sure that someone in your office is trained in the technology and has the time to use it. But there is technology out there. Whether it's a clearinghouse or the payer portals. Make sure you understand, spend the time on the payer portals so you can utilize those in this area. I'm not an expert on RevEHR fee schedules, and I know they have a reputation of having pretty time consuming to set up. But we do know that there are practices that have implemented those fee schedules see definitely an improvement in this in and around this topic. So those are some of the things that we might recommend you consider looking at for your practice. And so with that, I am going to ask Christine to talk a couple of slides, go through a couple of slides on our We Verify service. We launched We Verify late last year, fall of last year, and it's basically our outsourced service to take on this topic for a practice, kind of top to bottom. And so with that, Christine, you want to give us a couple slides on it?
Sure, happy to do that. So thank you everyone for attending. My voice is definitely a little bit better than it was this morning, thanks to medication. So hopefully we'll get through this. So We Verify, we do have a dedicated team that focuses solely on the verification and eligibility on a customer schedule. So we are logging in and pulling the schedule, and we will verify every patient, their insurance benefits for both medical and vision, at least 2 days in advance. If a patient has multiple medical plans or multiple vision plans, we are getting the benefits for all of them, not just the primary and not just the primary vision. We also search for plans that may not be known to a patient or to a practice. We do build internal libraries by demographic, by region, by payer. And if there is an IMED plan as an example that's tied to a group employer in the area, we would know to then go and search the IMED site to see if we can find benefits in that situation. We do ask the optometry specific questions. We want to know, are you considered a specialist or are you considered primary care in terms of copay? If your office deals a lot with retinal photos or with other ancillary testing, we will ask the question code specific to get you those details of the benefit. We do put the information into your Revolution EHR. There's several places where we will document that information, and actually we'll show you that in just a second. We do provide the details for the medical and the vision benefits in a same format. So we have a script that we put together that will lay out the benefits and the details the same way for each patient, for each payer, so that everybody's seeing the same information all the time. And ultimately, because we focus solely on the verification aspect, it frees up your staff and yourself basically to focus on patients and needs and such within the office. We do put the benefit details into the schedule details box inside of the schedule. So when the front desk person is checking in that patient for their visit, they will have the summary of details for the benefit right in front of them. They'll be able to talk to the patient or answer questions about copays and or deductibles. We do put the information also into the insurance slider and also into the insurance pod comments box, which is inside of the patient chart. We want the information to be available to everyone inside of the practice. So the schedule for the front desk, the doctor inside of the exam itself, for the opticians and contact lens techs and general techs taking the information that, there's several areas that make sense to store this, and there's several areas where staff is mainly going to be inside of the system. We do upload the vision authorizations for VSP and for IMED into the insurance slider so that the opticians can certainly work with the patients and the patient options based on the plan. And then we will also use the insurance invalid option on the schedule if there is a plan that is termed or we can't find valid insurance for the patient. So there would be a red ball indicator visible in the schedule that would alert you that something would be needed for this patient. So as you can see in this slide, we have the appointment details box over to the left there, which is from the schedule. And then we have the places where you would see the red ball, and then also an idea of what a script might look like for the patient. And then also again stored in the insurance slider and inside of the insurance comments box. Okay. All right, then Paul, I will turn it back over.
Great, thanks, Christine. Yeah, so from a service fees perspective, we charge for We Verify based on the number of appointments verified for the month. So at the end of each month, we tally up the work we did for you and charge per patient or per appointment. $375 for number one, and then as you can see, there are discounts based on quantities. So that's how it works. Monthly billing, no long-term contracts, much like our billing service. Use it as long as it's making sense for you. With that, let me invite you to send any questions you have, either general topics and talking about strategies for BNE verification, or if you have specific questions that Christine can answer about our services. That would be welcome as well. And so as you're coming, here's a couple. Let me start with a couple here, Christine. First one's a We Verify question. Does We Verify check same day appointments?
We Verify does not do same day appointments. We do leave that to be the responsibility of the office, and mainly because each of the benefits specialists, they have multiple customers. So as they're working out ahead in each of their accounts, they may not be logged in or see that information. So just to have a clean break of responsibility, we do assign same day to the practice.
Great, right. Here's a question. What's a reasonable KPI target for percentage of appointments verified? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think ultimately, working towards 100%, not realistic, of course, but I'd say about 95%, and that should account for the changes in the schedule, same day walk-ins, all of that. But if you can work to have as much information as possible before the patient comes in, I think it allows the staff and the practice overall to be able to plan for what to expect, how you're going to talk to your patients, what kind of details are there opportunities to upsell. So if you can hit about 95% of your schedule, I think you're doing really well.
Okay. A couple more We Verify questions. One here is, can you pick and choose which patients you want to verify?
So yes, you can. We will go through a startup process and conversation with a customer and define which template types that they would like verified. We do it by template type rather than by payer because our service is a multi-payer verification service. So we're going to do all payers. It's just easier to separate it by the exam type rather than by the payer type then in that situation.
Okay. Do you have suggestions on how to integrate BNE into staff meetings? Good question.
Yeah, and I think you touched on some of the topics, right? So goals for verifications, I think if you have a target number of patients or percentage of patients on your schedule that you want to have verified daily and weekly, I think that would be a great goal to have. I think also an important component and something that was actually out on the Facebook user group not that long ago is to talk about the obstacles. What are you facing in not having the right information or even trying to get the right information? Having knowing and understanding what pain is there, I think helps the practice to come together to problem solve, whether it's the front desk on the phone making the appointment, you know, are you having trouble getting the details and why? Is it the insurance person on the back end who's seeing wrong plans or wrong ID numbers being billed? You know, work together to identify what those problems are and then fix them. I also think that targeting additional sales, if you have a patient coming in for a medical visit, but find out that they have available vision benefits, you know, is there the opportunity to have that additional sale? And, you know, can you create scripts or ways to talk to your patients so that you can make sure that you're targeting those? And I also think too, having some sort of idea of what your collection rate is today and statements that you're mailing today versus implementing an EMB process and seeing what those changes are, I think are good things to measure.
Cool. So I got one more question, which I will give to you, Christine. If there's any final questions, pop them in. I've also put the contact information up here, so obviously you can always reach out to us, and we're happy to talk about the stuff in more detail. Question here is, in our area, we have a couple companies that have special ID numbers for VSP. Does we verify get auths for those plans also?
If the information is available through VSP, through Eyefinity, and we have the details to be able to pull it, yes.
All right, and another one squeezed in here. Do you check if eyeglass benefits are already used versus contact lens benefit if plan allows one or the other?
Usually with the vision plans, they're going to tell you what's available. So we are looking for that information and then also detailing that into our script. Again, we will put that copy of the vision benefit details, you know, into the insurance slider so that you're able to pull that and also see and verify that information as well. If there's some unique plans out there, we are asking what is available, yes.
Got it. Let me see. There's one here. I think when we verify Davis, we print service record for optical. Will you do that also?
So if they require, yes, we will. We do Davis. We do. I was thinking about something different to that question, but yes, Spectera if there's an option sheet, Davis if there's an option sheet, VSP IMED, we will upload those into the system.
Great, sounds good. Okay, we're about 40 minutes, so I think we'll call that a wrap. If you have additional questions, you know, either high-level topics, high-level questions on, you know, how we might suggest you tackle this topic in your practice, or specific questions about our services, obviously we're eager to dialogue with you on either of those. Got contact information up here that you can reach us at. I want to say thank you again for spending time. Apologize for the technical glitch in the middle. I'm just glad we recovered from it. And apologize for the tough voices that Christine and I both have as we're working off our colds. Christine, thanks for your time. Everybody else, appreciate the time you spent here, and have a great day.